Okie dokie. Just stick your foam roller to the side for now. I'm going to do a little yoga flowy, a whole bunch of different things just to get the body moving and a little warm before we start jamming a roller on it. Just change this. Okay, all right, we'll start with the spinal roll. Soft knees, drop your chin to your chest, rolling down nice and slowly. And then once you get to the bottom, make sure your arms are completely released. Your head should be nice and heavy, and you should be sort of looking between your thighs. Give your head a little nod and shake. Achilles, you don't be naughty, please. Sorry, keep going. Nod and shake your head. Grab each elbow with the opposite hand, so you turn your arms into like a little box, and that just helps to stretch out the shoulder blades a little more. Add in a little side to side sway from your hips. Pop your hands down onto the floor. Walk forwards into a plank position. Then lift your hips up into downward dog. Press your chest towards your toes. And start pedaling the legs out, so dropping one heel to the floor at a time. Find stillness again, and then pop right up onto your toes. And then drop the heels back to the floor. Press right up onto the toes. Back to the floor. One more, right up onto the toes. Back to the floor. We're going to lift our left leg straight up into a three-legged dog. And then drop your heel down behind your bum. Twist and open up your hip. Nice deep breaths. Square your hips, but keep your left leg up in the air. And then you're going to step that left leg through. So it's between your hands. So now you're in a nice long lunge position. We'll keep our right hand on the floor and we'll lift our left arm up into the world's greatest stretch. Looking up at your fingertips. Try and keep your back leg nice and straight. Try and feel as open as you can through your joints. Take your hand back to the floor. Pop your knee to the ground. You're going to take your left hand and pop it on the inside of the left foot. And then open the right hand. Now looking up towards our right hand. Step your knee back so you're in a 4-point position. And we're going to do thoracic rotation with our left hand. So turn your left hand so your palm is facing up. Then you're going to feed it through under your right armpit and drop that left shoulder to the floor. Stay down here at the bottom for a little bit. Breathe really deeply into your back. On your next inhale, come back to center. Exhale and follow that arm through up to the roof. Inhale, center. Exhale, feed the arm back underneath. Inhale, center. Exhale, reach the arm up. Inhale, center, and just pop your hand back on the floor. Step your feet back out into your plank for me. Then lift the hips once again up into downward dog. Hop right up onto the toes again. Drop the heels back down. And this time lifting the right leg up nice and straight. Bending that at the knee so your heel's down with your bum, and open your hip as much as you can out to the side. Square the hips, straighten up your leg, and step that foot through between the hands. Now we'll keep our left hand on the floor next to our right foot and lift our right hand up to the roof, looking right up to your fingertips. Pop your hand to the floor again. Your left knee comes onto the ground. Right hand now moves to the inside of the foot, and then lifting that left arm up. Take your left hand to the floor. Step that leg back so you're in your 4-point position again. And we'll do thoracic rotation on our right side. So turn the right hand so your palm is facing up. Feed it underneath the left and drop your right shoulder to the floor. Stay down here. On your next inhale, come back to the center. Exhale, follow that arm all the way up. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, follow the arm through. Inhale, center. Exhale, up. Inhale, back to the center. Now just step the feet back into your plank and slowly lower yourself down so you're lying on your stomach. Untuck your toes, hands either side of the chest, lifting up into an upward dog. Make sure your shoulders are nice and relaxed. Push your hips back to your heels now, so you're in a child's pose. Drop your head to the floor. Reach your arms out as long as you can. And gently coming up out of that. Okay, now that we're loosey-goosey, it's time for maximum discomfort, but the best kind. So, grab your foam roller. That made me very warm. So we're basically going to work from the top down. There are a few foam roller movements that are really awkward, but just give them a go, and the more you do them, the more you'll learn like how to balance as you do them. But we're going to start by rolling out our thoracic spine. So lean back on your foam roller and just roll so that you've got your shoulder blades, the edge of your shoulder blades on top of the roller. You're going to go hands behind the head, elbows super wide, tuck your pelvis slightly, lift the hips off the floor, and rolling up the shoulder blades towards the nape of your neck and back down the shoulder blades. So as we roll through the back, what's most important is that you concentrate on keeping your spine really straight. So what we want to avoid is sagging through our back by letting our rib cage lift up, as I am showing. You want to have that little pelvic tuck, ribs in nice and tight. Okay, so you can either do this next one with one hand behind your head, or you can reach both arms up, just depends if your neck gets tired. Just pause and pop your hips back on the floor. So we're going to roll between the shoulder blades. And the way to do that is to stretch your arms up, turn your palms so they're facing out, and then cross your hands so you're holding them. And then what you want to do is dome your back as much as you can, sort of punch the shoulder blades apart, and then roll just as we were. But now we're really pulling the shoulder blades apart from one another. So if your neck gets a bit tired, you just keep punching one arm up to the roof and just pop the other hand back behind your head. Really focus on pulling that shoulder blade up and away. If you're doing one side, just swap now and stop and reposition the roller whenever you need. It tends to get away from you a little. Nice and small movements. All right, pop the hips back on the floor. Bring the roller down so it's about halfway down your back. You're going to do a thoracic extension. So hands behind the head, elbows completely wide. Ribs need to stay in here. So if you want, you can pop one hand on top of your rib cage and you just tilt back ever so slowly and feel for that bit of a stretch through your chest. And you probably will find a sort of quite a tight section of your back where it feels like you can't really move that much. Remember to keep your pelvis tucked and we just stay leaning back here. Nice deep breaths. Let your elbows fall out to the floor. And then I want you to slowly rotate. So you're dropping one elbow to the ground or towards the ground. Back to center. You can pop your hips back on the floor. And off to the other side. Kind of like you're doing a very vague Russian twist. Just remember not to collapse through your pelvis. So keep that bit of tension. And then stop moving, find that center point and just roll up and down a little bit. So you're rolling that sort of middle third of the back, below the shoulder blades. Okay, so next we're gonna try and roll out lats. So biggest muscle under the shoulder blades, and basically we'll roll sort of across the side of our rib cage. So we'll start by keeping both our feet on the floor, but you'll need to lean off to one side a little bit. Take the hand off the ground and then try and roll right up towards your armpit and back down off the shoulder blade. So hips will need to be up and you're in a similar position to what we just did, but leaning off to the side. If you need to, you can just have that arm sort of drag along the floor. You might feel a little knobbly as it rolls over your shoulder blade. All right, we'll go into the other side. So both feet planted. Foam rollers like a third of the way down the back. Turn to the side, lift the hips, and start rolling. So across the rib cage, up towards your armpit. Then use your hands for balance if you need to. Get right up towards the crease of your armpit. So there's a few muscles we're getting here. Your lats, your serratus, which run along the rib cage, and then a few of the pesky little ones towards the armpit, like teres minor, teres major. All right, find some stillness. So you can roll your lower back. When you do roll your lower back, you just need to be even more mindful of getting that correct posture, so that tucked pelvis. So we'll do a little bit of it now. If you feel like you can't hold your core in tight, then just give this one a little miss. And you're rolling right on the top of the pelvis, that bottom third of the back. Really concentrate on squeezing the body tight, just like you'd lock out for a deadlift or squat. You can rotate a little bit so you target one side of the spine a little bit more than the other. The other side. Rolling into the wall. Okay, pop your bum back on the ground, and then you're going to sit on top of the foam roller. So this is a little trick I use to crack my back a little bit. I like to go into just a very gentle twist, so popping left hand on the outside of my right leg. Then I let my back sink and sag, keep a bit of tension through the core, and then leaning off to that right side, I just roll through the top of my pelvis right to the lower back. And I can always get some sort of a satisfying pop. So I'm not pulling anything super tight, not forcing my back into a twist, I'm just turning gently. Do the other side. So right hand to the outside of the left leg, slouch a little bit, lean to the left, and then right over the pelvis. Okay, sit back on top of the roller. I'm going to roll bum cheeks, so we'll completely lean off to one side, and then rolling right on top of your bum. You can try and take that leg off the floor if you want. Usually that just means you've got a little bit more weight down on that muscle. Swap onto the other side, so just lean your weight the other way. All right, let me just check the time. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're going to do all of our right leg and then all of our left leg. So we'll start off by rolling out the hamstring of our right leg. You can keep your left foot on the floor to take a bit of weight off it and put a bit of pressure on there. Or if your hamstring's not super tight, or you can take a bit of discomfort, you can cross your left leg on top of the right and just apply a bit more pressure. So you lift your hips up, balance on the hands, and roll from the back of your knee all the way to the bottom of your bum cheek. I'm just sort of pushing down on my right leg a bit with that left foot. If you find a spot that's particularly tight, just rest on it for a little bit and like reset the roller and things when you need to, because you will end up rolling more in one direction than the other. Okay, pop your bum back on the floor. Have the roller roughly under your knee. Turn off to the side. We'll do everyone's favorite. So ITB, iliotibial band, runs from hip to knee on the outside of the leg. To take a bit of weight off, plant your left foot and push down on it. But if your ITB isn't super tight, you can just sort of mermaid on your foam roller. And we're rolling all the way from hip to knee, and we can pop that one foot in front if you need. And just make sure that your hips are completely stacked. So we will lean a little bit forward and backwards in a second, but for now, we just want to make sure we've got that like straight downward pressure on it. Again, if you find a spot that's particularly tight, just stay on it or stay near it. If you can't bear to stay on it, give it a little bit of attention. So we're not going to go right onto the quad muscle, but you are just going to tilt forward a little bit now. So we're just getting it from a slightly different angle. And then tilt back a little bit. Rest and, calm the nausea down whenever you need to. Feeling nauseous while you do this is not uncommon. It just means you've got a very tight muscle or a bit of fascia. It needs a bit of work, but slow and steady. Okay. We're going to now roll onto our quad. Now, little hack for rolling out your quad muscle, because it is a bit awkward. If you have a really long roller, just make sure that the leg that you're going to roll is right on the edge of the roller. Pop the other knee on the floor, and then you can just sort of drag your hands and your leg along the ground a little bit. You can lift that other leg off completely, but again, that's just going to put a bit more weight on the muscle that's getting rolled. So you can sort of roll the top half a bit and then reset, climb a little bit higher and roll the bottom half of the muscle. You want to try and keep your weight just pointing straight downwards. Get right up towards the hip bone. And make sure you do the bottom half towards the kneecap. Couple more. Okay. We'll do our adductor on the right leg now. So again, one of the more awkward ones to roll. You want to lie down next to your foam roller like you're on the beach. And then you're lifting that right leg up, popping your knee on top of the roller, and you want to be at 90 degrees. So your hip is in line with your knee, your ankle is also in line with your knee. And you just rest on the forearms or on the hands if you want, and sort of weirdly grind on the ground. So just rocking to the side and get right from the knee. Do the sort of bottom half first, knee to as far as you can, and then you can reposition and try and roll the upper part of the adductor, but that gets a little bit more awkward. Get right down to your knee. There's a lot of attachments there, and that tends to be where people hold most of the tension. You can sort of play around with trying to roll with your legs straight out to the side, see if that hits you in a different spot, or just keep the leg bent. But this, after your ITB, is what causes most of people's knee pain when they just, when it's a lack of stretching. Okay, try and get that top half of the adductor now, so rolling right up towards your groin. Sometimes having your leg higher up the roller helps with this one. So sort of bringing your knee closer in towards the chest. Just do a couple more. All right. We will do the lower half of our leg right at the end, but we're going to swap onto our left side now. So we'll do our left hamstring. Nestle that roller right up in towards the crease of your bum. Lift the hips off, and then rolling all the way to the knees, then back to the hips. You do end up getting a little bit of a workout when you do full body foam rolling. There's a lot of balancing on hands that needs to be done. And you can put that other foot on the floor to take a bit of pressure off if you need to. Up and down a couple more times. Okay. We will flip onto our ITB. So right on the side of your body, pop that top leg over to take a bit of pressure off, or you can mermaid on your roller, and then up to the hip, down to the knee. Just take breaks as you need to doing these next couple. And you may even find that tomorrow you've got a couple of bruises popping up on your leg, which is basically just, if you've ever had cupping, it's the same thing where all of a sudden there's an enormous amount of blood flow to what was a really restricted bit of tissue. So it comes up as a bruise. Usually it doesn't hurt too much. All right, lean forwards a little bit, hit the ITB from a slightly different angle. And then leaning back. All right, we'll go onto the quad now. So flip over so you're on your stomach. Have your other knee on the ground. And then you can do one half of the leg at a time, top half or bottom half. And try and keep your hips square to the floor. Try and get right up towards your hip. Okay. All right, we will hit our adductor. And then we'll just do the lower bit of our leg. So lie on the floor on your tummy next to your roller. Flop that leg over. Start at 90 degrees and roll up to the side. Remember, just control the amount of pressure you're putting down, especially if it's tight. Make sure you get right in towards the knee. And you can play around with kicking that leg out straight. And then if you want to get right to the top part of the adductor, just pull that knee up a little bit higher. But it's pretty awkward to get there. Just check you aren't opening your knee up to the roof. Make sure you're keeping your knee straight. Okay, last two. Calves, really awkward to do. If you can get one of those tiny little foam rollers that has handles, it's like a rolling pin, they're really useful to jam into your quad and also to do your calf muscle with. But in the meantime, pop the foam roller underneath your ankle, cross one leg over, and then we just roll up and down a little bit. If they're really tight, pop both feet on and do both at the same time because there's a little bit less pressure. You might find that you need to drag the bum on the floor a little bit for this one. Or plop it down on either end of the roll. Get all the way down to your Achilles tendon and then right up to the knee. Reset your roller if it's getting away from you. Okay, last one we'll do. This one can be really not quite fun. So we're going to roll out our shins. You got loads of various bits of fascia and muscle along the front of the shins. So put as much weight on your hands as you can, and you're basically just going to crouch, pop your knees on the roller, and then roll them in towards your chest and back out. It's like a little ab exercise, but just be really gentle here. Some people have no problems rolling this part out. Usually if you like walk a lot, probably get quite tight through here. or run a lot, or have issues with like your ankle or tight feet, plantar fasciitis. That usually all ends up pulling these bits tight as well. Just do a couple more. Okay. Good work, guys. It's like every part of your body that you can foam roll. And I'll stop the recording.